And this morning, we honor Rio Rancho officer Greg Nigel Benner, the fallen officer who was shot and killed in the line of duty on Memorial Day.
In just hours, the community that he served and protected will say their final goodbye. We have live team coverage of today's funeral services, including a look at how people are honoring the life of Officer Benner. News 13's Catherine Mazzone. We're going to be in with her live at the Santa Ana Star Center.
That's where Officer Benner's funeral service will be held this morning. Good morning, Catherine. What do you know?
Good morning, Crystal. In just a few hours, the Star Center will have a much different feel as people gather here to honor Officer Benner. And then they'll line the streets as the procession goes back to the police department.
I think it's very important. It shows our support for our officers and our community.
For more than a week, the community has come to this spot where Officer Greg Benner was shot and killed, police say, by Andrew Romero. The makeshift memorial has drawn hundreds of visitors, those wanting to pay their respects to the fallen officer. Now the community is expected to turn out once again to show their support for the officer and his family. The procession will leave Santa Ana and head towards the Rio Rancho Police Department, where they'll make a last call for Officer Benner.
I'm bringing my son, who is special needs, and we will be along Unser and watch the final call.
I'll be here in Officer Benner's support, and God bless his family. They've made the ultimate sacrifice.
We want to show you the map of the route again. Along the route, there are 3 big parking lots, including parking next to Lowe's, Life Church, and Calvary Church. The services at the Santa Ana Star Center are scheduled to begin at 10:30 this morning, followed by a procession to the private burial. Attendees are asked to arrive here at the Santa Ana Star Center at 10 o'clock this morning. Officer Benner will be buried in full honors. Back to you.
Catherine, thank you. People across the state are banding together to honor that officer. Recently, there's been a movement to paint Rio Rancho blue. Some tying blue ribbons on light poles and signs. Others are turning blue porch lights on throughout the night, all in support for Officer Benner and his family.
And since his death, Officer Benner's fellow officers have watched over him. The first escort from Albuquerque to the funeral home in Rio Rancho drew law enforcement from across the state, and that's where he will remain until his funeral in just a few hours. Officer Benner not only left a lasting impression, though, on his fellow officers.
The community of Rio Rancho, some who never even knew the fallen officer, also say he was a hero. News 13's David Romero continues our team coverage this early hour with more on the man behind the badge. He's live at Daniel's funeral home in Rio
Adam
Rancho.
and Crystal, this morning the fellow officers continue to guard their fallen brother in blue here at the Daniels funeral home behind me. Now this is only a small portion of the outpouring of support that we continue to see grow.
Great man, very caring, fair, and for this to happen for no reason is just, there's no words to describe it.
Officer Greg Benner's impact on the city of Rio Rancho will be everlasting.
It just really impacts us a lot.
It was here where he put his badge on every day and patrolled the streets, serving and protecting the community he called home. A second career for him, the officer killed on Memorial Day was also a veteran, serving 22 years in the Air Force. He was also a husband, father, and grandfather. His wife, kids, and grandchildren, and more on the way will say goodbye today, but they won't be alone.
It's kind of hard to talk about somebody that you know personally. I feel bad for his family. So bad.
His family says the man, who was always smiling, always caring, had a pleasant demeanor both on and off the job. And that's what won over so many who knew him. Since his death, the outpouring of support for the fallen officer has only grown, all for the man who gave his life to protect theirs. Now, Officer Benner's death is the third one in the line of duty for the small department of 150 officers here in Rio Rancho, but he was the first one killed by a suspect. Officer Benner was 49 years old. Back to you.
All right, thanks, David. Now, people from across the state paid their respects at Daniel's funeral home yesterday in Rio Rancho during a public visitation, including fellow police officers and veterans.
The fact that he continued to serve after retiring from the Air Force it says a lot about that man, and it's a great loss.
So Tech Sergeant Ken Thompson served with Benner in Tucson, Arizona, and he says he wasn't surprised when complete strangers showed up to the viewing to honor Officer Benner.
Meanwhile, the makeshift memorial for the officer continues to grow as we begin the day. It became so large that the gate now surrounds that area to preserve not only the items being left, but also to protect that site where Officer Benner was shot and killed. In our next half hour this morning, we'll introduce you to one visitor who didn't know Officer Benner, but found her own unique way to honor him.
And all morning long, we've been sounding off on our Facebook page, you've been sounding off, lending your condolences and support. Josie says, rest, oh, well-deserved peace, sir. Thank you for your sacrifice. Heather Z says, may those who know him find comfort in each other. If you would like to leave a comment for Officer Benner or his family, head on over to our Facebook page. Remember to stay with News 13 all morning long as we continue our team coverage of Officer Benner's funeral. On air and, of course, online at KRQE.com. We'll also be live streaming the services, and we'll have a complete wrap-up later on in our later newscast.